Phew. Conversations like my series that I'm doing called Perspective is based upon the VidDevo ministry that I normally have, sharing and relating Jesus in a personal and intimate way, taking those things with which I've learned in my life that have become a part of my soul, that God has brought to the integrity of my spirit and caused me to learn in a personal way and apply it in my life and learn the truth of it and the facts of it so that I could relate it to someone else and to share with them what I've discovered, not only about Christianity or church or faith, doctrine or beliefs, but about Jesus himself, about the person and the interpersonal relationship that I have as someone who grew up or was saved in the Jesus movement and had no religious background, no religious upbringing. So I kind of like represent, in a way, some of the things that you've heard about. And I've gone through some of the things that you were told about. And I've seen some of the things that you know about. So what I do is I try to share that in a way that makes sense, or that brings the full spectrum of all that occurred that I had seen and heard and handled with my own hands. The things that I saw that no one can take away from me, whether they be miraculous things I saw and experienced for myself, or whether they be the things that I went to and saw happen to other people. You know, not just something that, you think you believe in or something you think you know, but things that have blood and guts, to them, that have scars and tissue, that have sinews, that literally have the reality of knowing what I'm talking about. And so VidDevo was started in that way, and as it developed, there was two big directions that we went once we gradually expanded to such an international venue and such a big avenue that people began to watch from all over their country and around the world, that I began to realize that VidDevo needed to continue in what it was doing and the direction that God had taken it. But I needed also to start just the topics, the things that just say perspective, and the VidDevos or the teachings and the reality of what was being shared as perspective, in that direction, with relating that on the internet in demonstration of the ministry of VidDevo. And so with inspiration and Bible read and some of the other ones that I have in that other half of the VidDevo ministry, today we're starting another series that we're continuing that's called Conversations. Because you see, there's lots of people that want to have a conversation. They want to discuss, not be disgusted. They want to converse, not be condemned. They want to relate, but not have, anything forced down their throat or beat upon. They want to talk one-to-one. They want to have that venue where they can have a conversation with a Christian. And that's what Conversations is about. Conversations is about having a conversation with a Christian. Not trying to evangelize, not trying to witness, not trying to overtly or covertly, praying in secret or doing any kind of manipulation whatsoever with any other person that's watching, that's sitting here, that's hearing my voice, or that will participate in this conversation. And that we'll be able to use conversation to relate information. And that's all it's going to be about. I mean, if a person finds Jesus because I happen to be a Christian, fine. That's their choice. That's not my objective. My objective in conversation is to relate what a Jesus freak or a Jesus person or someone like me, in fact, me, would talk about if I was having a conversation with someone that's a Mormon or a Muslim or a Jehovah's Witness or anyone, someone that doesn't know anything at all. That we could talk. That we could record that conversation and just, hey, no agenda. Here's the book. I open it up because I like looking at books. But other than that, I can set my Bible down as I'm doing. Pick up my jug of water because I've been pretty sick lately. And carry on a conversation with you. Because that's what Conversations is going to be about. It's going to be about you. Whoever you are, whatever you are, however you are. I mean, my God, if you're some, sinner that's all screwed up, and you think that, you're fine. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. What do you want to talk about? It's not talk radio. Don't get me wrong, talk radio has its place and has its purpose. There is a dialogue that needs to occur at times for people that use either shock radio, jock radio, talk radio, or whatever kind of slamming, cramming, damning stuff that they use sometimes on radio in order to accomplish certain purposes. I don't want to do that. I just want to have a conversation. Sometimes I learn more from what I don't know by asking the person that does know than I learn from what I think I know about what I don't know. You see, that's the problem a lot of times with having a conversation with a Christian. The Christian thinks he knows more than he does and acts like he has the answer more than he really does, or really has all the facts to relate the information. And I found that true no matter who I talk to. I can listen to a Bible study and the guy will start telling me about Jews and about Pharisees, and I already know what they don't know. You see, I'm Jewish. I've had the experience of being in Chabad. I know what a Chabadnik is. Do you? Have you davened? Do you know what talis is? Do you know how to lay tefillin? So, we hear what Jews are supposed to be, but when you hear a Bible study and someone talks about, say, Pharisees or Sadducees, or usually, if they even progress to an Essene or Essene, or Nazrit, or any of the other ones, Prushim, but when they relate information they don't know, they'll make these huge statements, and most people that are sitting in the audience will, and then they'll jump on it and they'll get all excited. But that's also the way that sometimes some bad theology has happened, and some bad relationships have happened. And it's sometimes even how in-laws and outlaws become in-laws and outlaws, because they don't have a conversation. They talk about what they don't know about the person they should know. And that's what I want to have. If I don't know, say, about the Sharia law, I want to ask someone who knows it. I want to sit down and say, hey, I hear Christians say, this is what's the truth? What's the facts here? I've done my homework. Don't get me wrong. I say I'm not gonna have my notes with me, but I'm gonna make the person know that, hey, I'm not ignorant. I am a journalist to a degree. I have a certain amount of skills in research. I'm a network engineer by trade and by skill set. I've done that in the past. I know how to do information analysis. I've done lots of writing. Freelance writer. I've done some publishing. I've done a couple books. Done a couple screenplays, music, things like that. I've done a lot of things in my life. So there's a lot of ways that I've learned information. But I've always told people, look, if you want to know something, go to the horse's mouth. And I've talked to experts on the internet, related to them different ways. And you can do, video conferencing even if you want to, and that's your venue. But in conversations, that's not what I want to do. I want to hear it from the horse. I don't want to, go to the horse's stall or go to the horse's carriage or wherever it is. I want to bring someone together and have a conversation. And so that's what conversations now is about. If you see the word, first of all, usually the top of it will probably say something like the ministry of VidDevo. But then underneath it, if you see just a word in capitals, that says something like conversations, you'll see a colon. You see, the word conversations with a colon means that here is the title. This is the category. This is the main topic. This is the header of what you're about to see. This is the focal point, and hopefully the one-word, keyword analysis statement of what you're about to experience. Conversations. Or conversation. I think we're calling it conversations. But conversations. And so then after the colon, you'll see a quotation. That'll be the title, which will say, talking to a Muslim. No, I'm kidding. Today it's more like getting personal, getting real. Because I'm pretty tired and I'm worn out, and that's what I wanted to talk about. But then I realized I needed to make a demo, a intro, a breaking the ice, so to speak, kind of like a meet and greet, tape on this one of being personal. And so that's what I'll probably call this one, a meet and greet, is that it'll probably be like every time there's a new topic, like say we're talking about Islam, we might have a meet and greet, or we're talking to a Mormon or talking about Mormonism, we'll have a meet and greet. Kind of like laying out again what the conversation means, what it means to have boundaries, what it means to be polite, what it means to not chastise or not put into a box or to try to analyze or overanalyze people when maybe they don't know what they're talking about either. And so conversations is just allowing that freedom to develop relationships that may not end in what you may have an expectation of. But the only realization I have in starting this VidDevo of conversation is to converse, to talk, to relate information, to share. To be able to say something to someone without having them have to put up walls and be defensive before even having one word spoken out of our mouth. I have no idea what God may do with it. I'm blessed that He is doing it. I'm challenged by it because, again, I have lots of, in the ministry of VidDevo, lots of series that are going on all simultaneously at the same time, and I try to add to them, used to try to add to them daily, but there's a lot of them. And if you go on the web, and Google VidDevo, you'll find stuff all over the place. And I'm trying to keep a database of them all, and I'm trying to keep a website of them all, but, they kind of like rabbits out of the hat. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat, and there goes another one. Woo, the dove took off. Whoops, lost another one. It's out there in Netherworld, it's kind of now going to go around the world, and people are going to start watching it, and I try to keep track. So that's kind of a meet and greet between you and I in this conversation about conversations. That's really what we're doing, and I kind of want to have a coffee cup, or maybe a coffee pot, who knows, or maybe tea. Tea's good. I like tea. Tea is good. A lot of people drink tea. And maybe, develop that in some way. Pepsi would be nice, when I'm thirsty, But today, after this meet and greet, which I'm kind of ending it right now. Okay, now we're into personal 101. No, but now I just wanted to, in this meet and greet, kind of let my hair down, what hair I have. And to mention, that I'm making progress on my recovery because I had gotten a blockage. I have Crohn's disease, and it affects me physically, at times. And this time it dramatically affected me, in a huge way that I'm just barely... I'm recovering. I didn't die, that's a good thing. But it was close, it was touch and go for a while there. But, I had to do some time in the ER, and I had to get 5 liters of fluids, and I had rigor mortis, well, not rigor mortis, but I had such rigor in my muscles that all the cramping, I had gone to where even my jaw was locked and my entire body was like a board. It was a brick. And some people exaggerate that. Some people can say, well, the guy's legs were pretty tight. Some people can exaggerate, a lot of things. Well, you have to talk to the ER to figure out just how rigor my mortis almost was. Because it was pretty tight, and it was pretty bad, and they couldn't start even IVs to get fluids going because it was so traumatized. It was bad, and I was really screaming in agony. So having recovered from that somewhat, I'm still kind of getting my weight back somewhat, and I'm getting some, stamina back, and I'm getting some energy back, and, enjoying trying to do more each day, and I'm doing too much, obviously, but having said that, I wanted to relate that so that you understand not everything you see is the way it appears. Now, I am who I am. One thing you'll find out about the ministry of VidDevo, we don't pull punches. We don't lie about anything. We'll tell you the truth, and sometimes you don't want to know. We'll do TMI if it requires TMI. If something needs to be said that much, well, we'll say it. If there's somebody, that's got a sacred cow, and I'm going to say, hey, look, if this is your sacred cow, I'm sorry, but this is what it is. That's what we do in VidDevo. I'm not trying to offend anyone in it. I'm just trying to tell you what it is. We do that in the news department of Last Generation Network News also, and in the prophecy department, that we do those things too. That, I've been into a lot of things in my lifetime, so I've got a lot of, you could say irons in the fire, but really I have a lot of diversities of gifts within the realm of the Holy Spirit, anointing and appointing and directing, and that with which I'm capable of doing and able to, because I don't really get a chance to do the things that you normally do. Like you'll go to maybe a vacation Bible school, or you've probably been to like Bible colleges and things like that, Not so much so, you know. Didn't have a chance. You know, been a little busy. But you know, I've been a missionary and I've been other things and you know done those things, and so I've had the opportunity, you know, to accumulate a wealth of knowledge that had I kept my mouth shut without doing something with it, I always feel like that I would have burst. And that's why a lot of times I started ministries that I have, and lots of them, and worked in ministries, because I can't remain still. I need to get out what's been going in, because I just don't know about you, but for me, that with which I'm learning, man, I gotta have an avenue to go out, because it's like an artesian, you know, you try to dam it up, it just doesn't stay there. It comes out. You know, when I would remain silent, my bones groaned, or, you know, it almost burst without me, you know, within me, as David, or I think the prophets said. But having said those things, I really wanted to tell you that I'm excited about conversations. I'm excited to be able to sometimes have the conversation about me, you know, to just say, hey guys, you know, I'm hurting. You know, I'm really down about this thing. It's really getting to me. I want you to know where I'm feeling, what I'm feeling. Because you see, one of the things that I wanted to mention in this meet and greet on conversations was, while I was suffering, I mean, it was bad. I had not a meet and greet with God, but I was really talking to Jesus. Jesus was talking to me about a lot of things. You know, I mean, it was kind of neat, you know, because I love it when Jesus is talking to me, because, you know, we have conversations all the time. Most of the time it's in the bathtub. You know, I'll lay in the bathtub and I'll sit there and think, oh gosh, it's great, it's so quiet, peaceful here. I'm just going to lay back, you know, and relax, and, you know, God's not going to bother me. Lord's not going to bother me. Jesus is going to talk to me. Nobody's going to bother me. You know, I'm just going to sit here and let the hot water, you know, kind of squeeze it over my face. It's just going to roll down. I'm just going to unwind and just kind of like, ah, bing, like, oh, you rang, Lord? No, but really, I mean, like Noah and Bill Cosby's sketch, some Christians live like that. Really. And it happens pretty close to that way. Pretty much. I don't know what to tell you if it doesn't happen for you, except that if you check out the VidDevo side of the ministry of VidDevo, that's what we talk about. You know, we relate Jesus and, you know, hearing his voice and, you know, learning to hear his voice and learning to walk with him and talk with him and expect him to audibly speak to us. And that's what we do in VidDevo a lot, you know, among other topics, and you can read the topics to discover that. But in conversations, I realized in having this sit-down time with God while I was laying in a hospital bed, a very familiar place for me, by the way. I spent years in hospital beds. VA hospitals, private hospitals, all kinds of hospitals. Spent a lot of time in hospitals. Matter of fact, my time in hospitals might be more than my time outside of hospitals. Just about. You know, it used to be I had more time in hospitals than I did outside of hospitals. Then I got ahead of it. You know, I'm ahead of the game now. But when I was laying there, God was talking to me and kind of not, you know, busting my chops. You know, I mean, not really that way, because you know, you got to know me in order to understand how God and I relate. But he was telling me to not be so. And there are some people on the internet that are going to go, humble? Are you kidding me? But God said to me, you know, don't be so humble. You know, that I made you who you are. Go for it. Talk. Do it. Be there. You know, relate. Share. You know, speak. Fetch. Roll over. Bark. But no, I mean, God was telling me some things that I needed to do. You know, and pardon me, but we used to say it, and I'm going to be crass with you, because in conversations we might be semi-crass, so the word might get your you-know-what together and get on with it. And that's literally what he said to me. You know, get your together and get on with it. And I was like, well, okay. Did you say so? Did you say so? Yes. Oh, okay. Got it. And that's really what happened, was that there was a stronghold still left, you could say, in my heart. You know, there was maybe this weakness or the sin or, whatever you want to call it. You can call it whatever you want to call it. If you want to go on the VidDevo side, I'll tell you about it. You want to go on the conversation side, I'm just going to say, I'm too tired to talk about it. Let's just stick with where we go. Where we go. But anyways, I had this thing in me, that was still just kind of like a little fist, and God had been pulling it apart, and saying, I'm going to get it out of you. You keep hanging on to it, and I keep pulling your fingers apart. Let go, let go, let go, let go. And I keep going, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And it affected, it began to affect VidDevo ministry, and began to affect the ministry, and God don't let things like that happen very long. Kaboom! I was like, okay. And so he took it away, and sure enough, I'm thankful, because I could not have solved it myself, and of myself, and we have the old adage that, we know by Christianity, and you can get through 17,000 different ways of applying Murray or prayer or discipleship and all the other things they say. Just let it go, or just healing of memories, or just profess and confess, or just if we confess our sins to people, just forgive us and come from all righteousness. I mean, don't get me wrong. All of that's true, and all of it works up to a point. But there's also sometimes more than, and you have to come to a point where God crushes you in order to kill what last vestiges you may have of your flesh in you. You need to be crucified. And recently, I kind of had an idea that it was coming. And you probably won't like the way that I had an idea it was coming. Well, in conversations, we just talk, We don't try to be right or wrong. We just talk. And, put it bluntly, man, I saw old Greg getting, stomped on, with his child dying. His son died. I watched, I've known Greg I don't know Greg personally, but I got saved at Calvary Riverside before it became Harvest. And, that's about it. Other than that, seen him around, been around near, kind of like around at times, but not, no. We don't have tea together. We don't have conversation. He's busy. We would, he's a cool guy. Greg's cool, Greg's an evangelist. Greg's into, kind of different, one venue, and I'm in a different venue, and we're all doing different things at different times, We're all of the same body, one faith, one hope, one salvation, one spirit, one, the ones. So anyways, Greg was, and he'd been teaching for a long time, and I was like, lots of people love Greg, I love Greg. First of all, I love his artistic ability more, but I love Greg, and I love his goofiness, that, now he's old, and I love the fact that he's got no hair. Hear that, Greg? And I love his humor, and all that stuff, But, Greg got crushed. He got hit hard. And I've had a lifestyle pretty similar to Greg's. My testimony sounds a lot alike. It's scary in a lot of ways. It's interesting. But having said that, Greg got crushed. And I went, wow. And I started watching in what I call Christendom, the body of Christ, and the people that are going through. And a lot of other people were getting crushed at the time through different things. A lot of people that we always thought of as being super strong had been through some dramatic crushings. John Corson, in his early days, when he went back to Applegate, his wife dying, and having a ski accident, But later, moving on past that, or, those things were kind of like normal life. But all of a sudden, there was a rash of people getting crushed. Greg got crushed. Now, there's a lot that he learned from it, he's taught, and he's used, whatever. But I just saw something else, too, that I still think of as just something else that God took from him, that blessed him. Now he's different than what he was before. Rick Warren got crushed, stomped, smashed. Wow. Shocking to the ground. Great men of God. A lot of men of God, all at the same time. I picked those two because those are two people that almost everybody knows. And I happen to know them a little bit. Big crushing. And I went, oh boy. And it's kind of like you kind of see the writing on the wall. There are stages that, if you're a mother, let me talk to the mothers for a minute. If your father's fine, you probably will agree. But, if your mother's, you know this. Don't all 2-year-olds act the same? When they hit 2, they act about the same. You know, I mean, there's this 2-year-old stage. Yeah, okay. So you see, there's stages you go through. So churches go through stages, pastors go through stages, ministries go through stages. They don't all say that they go through the same stage, and there's nobody that's going out to really put a methodology or methodical analysis onto it, which, you know, if I thought there was enough time, I'd probably write a book on it, because I think I could. But it's out there. I mean, it's kind of obvious, you know, what God does. You know, it kind of relates back to the Scriptures, and you can trace it through not just church history and Christendom, but through the children of Israel, in the land, out of the land, into captivity, out of captivity. I mean, there's kind of like this process thing that goes on, you know, development thing. You know, it's kind of, and then also like, you know, the lifestyle of some of the patriarchs and some of the people, you know, the Bible, you know, like heroes, Bible, whatever. You kind of see the same thing, you know. I mean, there's something that's going on, you know. I mean, there's a process, and it seems to be stages, and it seems to be apparent if you can see it. If you can't, don't worry about it. Hey, it doesn't require great explanation, you know. It's just a conversation. So I saw that coming, and then I went, oh, I think God's getting ready to do something with me. You know, I mean, I think He's gonna, because I've been used in ministry different times, and usually before He uses me, He abuses me. No, I'm kidding. Sort of kidding. But when you're like in the Lord's hands, you know, and if you've gone through other countries and other places and other things, and you've gone from ministry to ministry to ministry, I mean, not skipping ministries, but because God sent you, then God has to rearrange you. Well, that's kind of like the potter and the clay thing. You know, it's like, okay, you were a nice teacup. You know, I used you as a teacup over here, you know, and you were nice, you know, and you were just in a nice setting. I need to put you back on the wheel, because now I need a stein. I need to make you a big stein. I need to fill the stein up. A stein's a big giant beer mug, in case you're wondering. I need to make a stein, so I need to add some more stuff to you. But first we got to get out the impurities. So put you on the wheel, you know, and you kind of... Have you ever done clay? I don't mean ghost. That ain't working. Black. Try it again. Forget that clay. Bring some more clay. Get some new clay. You know, you kind of... And then he kind of works it, you know, there's some more water. Throw some water in there. You know, finally he says, now we're getting it. Now we're getting it. Now back down. Back down. Back down. And so he makes you into what he needs you to be in order to get to the next part or stage or development of your life. And quite frankly, Greg getting crushed was ready for Rick. Wouldn't have been ready before. But boy, they ministered, I'm sure, to each other. And there was a great bonding, I think, that went on. And that's kind of what's happened to me just in the last few days with this suffering. I'm being bonded back to, you know, with a lot of, dare I say, there's a lot of people that are, you know, in their own flesh or in their own, you know, choice of ministry, and it's their own choice. You know, slam and damn and cram and, you know, want to blast the body of Christ and somehow straighten it up, fix it, make it into something that they want to see, that, you know, it's perfect, you know, the way they want it to be. You know, and they don't really apply the letters to 7 churches. They just say, no, that's wrong, this wrong, and they, you know, they're like, you know, and they just, little tiny poodles, you know, kind of yapping at the feet, you know, and when they bite, it hurts. Don't get me wrong. Poodle bites hurt. But they're just yapping. You know, they're yapping about this, yapping about that, you know, and they're just not growing up. They're not developing. You know, and if you have the time, if you make the time, if you know how, you can take a poodle and make it into a terrier. I'm kidding. But you can take a poodle and have it become what it should be, rather than it just a barking dog, you know, yapper, you know. I call them yappers. Because if you are willing to lay down your life for even the one, which is what I said VidDevo was all about, then you're willing to lay down your life for everyone. And I really wasn't there yet, because there were sometimes some things that I was going, you know, I'd rather just slap them around. You know, people that know better, you know, I'd rather just tell them, look, you're wrong. You know, here's the scriptures, here's the word, here's, I'm being honest with you guys, I'm being patient with you, but here, here's the bottom line. Wrong. That ain't right. You're messing up. Let's get real. Come on now. You're in charge here. You're the head honcho. You're messing people up. You're stumbling them. Well, God took me and said, no, you're done with that. You've done that in the past, and I've used that, and it's a good ministry. But now, I need to move you into something else. And so having that crunch and munch on me, where there was not much left of me, I kind of got to a real tender place, real kind of like, well, I've been here before. Where, you can walk up to somebody and say, go ahead, hit me. And they hit you, and, you say, well, go ahead, hit my other side. And they hit you, and they stomp you and throw you down on the ground, and they keep bumping on you, and you don't even feel it. You're smiling. You're full of joy. Because you see, I've done that. People always try to tell you, silly things like, you got to defend yourself. No, you don't. No, you don't. I've been there. I mean, I know that one. I've been stomped on and bumped on and standing in front of gangs, standing in front of violent men, standing in front of guns, standing in front of, you name it. I mean, I've been in where the bombs went off and blew a guy's hand off, in Jerusalem. I mean, go figure. If God couldn't protect me, who can? And so, after knowing all these things, it's like, well, now I can share those things. But I needed to have a better tenderness of my heart, that I really cared about, not just being able to take the blow, but to care for the people that were extending the blow, and then even go beyond that more so, to even die for the person that was willing to give the blow. And that's the way I try to relate it to you, because then you'll understand it, because it's not American. I mean, it's something that a lot of people can do overseas, and people sometimes, can do here in America. We're trained not to, be that way. We're trained to be, protect yourself, do yourself, be yourself, I myself, and assertive and, violent and all the other stuff. But having this conversation, I wanted to share that that's where I had the last stronghold removed. I don't have a problem anymore about anything. I'm really kind of like, who cares? I let it go. I let go of everything. Now I'm going to look for sleeping on the streets. Don't you? Looks like it. Now I'm just letting go, and I've let go of the last. I mean, and I know some people think, well, yeah, you got to let go of that. Oh man, I've given up everything, folks. Come on now, let's be real. I've already given up houses and homes and wives and friends and neighbors and relatives and things for the kingdom of God's sake and gone on, and done all the things, done all that. But there is something more, and you'll see if you don't know what I'm talking about. But some people, like maybe Greg, maybe Rick, maybe some other people out there, that are crunch. I wanted to share this for you because I wanted to say, I hear you, I'm there. It's nice. It's not easy. I mean, actually, it's easier. It's part of the expression. It's easier. It's not, but it's really easy. It's like kind of like, what are you gonna do? Worry about it? No. You let go. And I think, and I wanted to, in this meet and greet, thank Rich. I can't even think of his last name. Doggone it. Well, he's the pastor of Calvary Chapel, Laguna Creek. I don't normally recommend things, but I sort of do sometimes. But anyways, Rich Chafin. There we go. Yeah, I was losing my mind. I don't remember names, so that's what's terrible about me. Rich had been talking for a long time about this, kind of like, things, and he's got a very peaceful way of relating his style of teaching. And even my wife says it, if you wanted to have a keyword or you wanted to summarize his style of teaching, the way that he chooses to present and teach, and what you get the feeling of from the word as it's being presented, is peace. I wouldn't say that about Chuck. No offense to Chuck. I know Chuck. I was at Calvary Costa Mesa. I remember those days. Hey, guys. There are times, we're with Chuck. At night, Sunday night. Sometimes you felt like you were running off into the rapture. And while Rich may get wound up at times, you have this feeling of peace. I mean, the fruit of the Spirit, peace. And you can see where things are going with all of the church there and how it's developing and which manifestation of the gifts of the Spirit and what things are going to occur there or what is occurring there. And I really, and the gospel is being presented. I mean, it's really amazing to me to see kind of like the golden stage of a ministry occurring. And I was blessed because in that blessing to my wife, because she's growing from it like just dry and parched water to a thirsty soul, and she's been to Calvary's. We worked with Calvary pastors, in a ministry doing missionary outreach and lived together for a while. And it was like, no, this is where she needed, now. And so I'm blessed by that. But I was so thrilled that God used also a man that had been the same places I've been. He's got more formal education than I do. I've been to maybe there before he was, I think. Haven't really had a chance to talk much. I might know more about, Judaism or some things. He knows more about other things, so it's like, who cares? We're not, comparing. But I was blessed to find that he could share with me things from the Spirit of God by his teaching and what he does in teaching that I enjoy. And I'll leave it at that because it encourages me. And so I finally found someone that I could say, oh, thank God, Lord, what I want has been that. It's not because it, makes me, smarter or anything like that. It's like, no, we're not going to go anywhere when it comes to theology. Sorry. I was pretty intense, I mean, if you can imagine, Orthodox Jews studying, hey, got nothing on me, buddy. I know the Orthodox. Yes, I do. But Rich has been able to, by the way of the Holy Spirit, putting me in that place at this time for my soul, to bring me to the place where I could be crushed and then come out of it whole, and be thankful that now I can be available to what I'm doing now in this conversation. To be able to go forward with places that I'm sure conversations is going to go that I may never be. And somehow, in some way, that's going to touch someone and they're going to see the love of God and God through just having a conversation. Because that's the way it is with Rich. It's like having a conversation with God. And you just enjoy it. So like I said, I'm excited. I hope you are too. Because God has so much more for you that as soon as you think you've arrived, just like Chuck Smith, he hadn't even begun his ministry until one day he arrived at Calvary. And he probably thought he was already there. Yeah. Just like Chuck. When you think you're there, you may not even yet have begun. And there's so much more that God has in store for you if you just have a conversation with Him.